Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Invictus Racing League YouTube channel. Now it is the turn of the F4 League to take centre stage for round 9 around the Hungarian here in the beautiful city of Budapest, as the drivers look to regain their stride following last week's postponed Belgian Grand Prix. I'm also very happy to say that I'm not on my own this evening. I am joined by Yestin. How are you doing this evening?
Good evening, everyone. Round 9 Hungarian. Should be fun.
Absolutely. I hope everyone who's watching is having a great evening. And as well, if you do want to follow Invictus Racing League on any of the socials, you can do so. That's Invictus Racing League on Facebook, at Invictus RL on Twitter, and at Invictus Racing League on Instagram. We didn't actually have a race last week due to the postponed Belgian Grand Prix due to the PSN issues that took place. So what we'll do is just have a quick recap of the championship standings before we get into tonight's racing. Malc currently holds an 8-point lead over closest challenger Maggot, with Tin Man in third, who is now 20 points behind Malc, with Nitrogash and Cryptox completing the top 5. Meanwhile, in the Constructors, Red Bull have a 27-point lead over nearest challengers McLaren and Alfa Romeo, who are tied for second. In terms of this sort of track then, Hungarian, what are you expecting to see tonight?
Well, I think it's going to be, I'm going to say this a lot tonight, but it is Monaco without any barriers. It's going to be tricky for the drivers, especially in qualifying, as obviously it's the short qualifying format, so it'll be less time to go out and set a really good lap, and there might be some traffic, especially in the last sector near the end of the session.
Absolutely, we've got a very good grid here tonight as well. Plenty of drivers, so plenty of opportunities for traffic to happen, especially if you're warming up for your lap and somebody else is on theirs. In terms of a bit of background to the Hungarian, this track was opened in 1986 and has hosted the Hungarian Grand Prix ever since. It's a 2.738 mile circuit with 14 corners, 6 to the left and 8 to the right, and a lap record of a 1:16.6 set by Lewis Hamilton during this year's Grand Prix. It's definitely known to be one of the most technical tracks on the calendar, with a good front end necessary, especially in very tight Sector 2. There are 2 DRS zones to help overtaking, the first down the pit straight and the other at the exit of Turn 1 leading to the long left-hander at Turn 2. Do you think track position will be more important here than ever due to the difficulty with overtaking?
Yes, but there are some noticeable examples of Hungary not actually doing that, especially if you take your mind back to 2006, Jenson Button's first Grand Prix win, when he started down in 14th in rainy conditions, as drivers are now coming out for their out laps at the start of qualifying.
Yeah, first few drivers out on the circuit. I think the first driver out is Tin Man in the Racing Point. Thankfully, we do equal spec in this league, so there's no massive changes with the performance update that we recently had, of course. And in terms of places where you can potentially go wrong, Tin Man's actually going through that sector right about now. Some of these curbs through turns 4 all the way up to turn 7, in fact, can be very treacherous, and that could really make or break somebody's race tonight.
Yeah, as a former league racer myself, I've had noticeable times in time trial just trying to get turn 4 right. Half the time I run wide on the curb and my back end is non-existent. Yeah, it's very tricky, the middle sector in general, because it's high speed, fast flowing corners just getting at you.
And if you haven't got the car set up right, you think you'll feel it around this track more than most. You expect loads of high downforce setups around here, because really the only straight you've got is this pit straight, and even that's not particularly long compared to some of the other ones you've got on the calendar. A lot of drivers, as usual in F4, are coming out to play quite early on the medium tyres, maybe looking to get up to speed on the track. If you haven't done any practice, let's say, is it quite wise to go out on the slower tyre first of all and just get a grip for the sort of conditions?
Yeah, it is. Just get an eyeful of what's coming up, what's the track feeling, you know. Tractors differ a lot from different game modes. If you're in time trial 1 minute and you're in an online league race the next, it does change, funnily enough. And so it's understandable seeing people who might not have practiced going out on mediums to get an eyeful.
And already we've got Tinus, who is out of qualifying. Looks like I don't know if he's retired or he's crashed coming out of what looks like, that would be around turn 4, turn 5 sort of area. looking at the map.
Like the exit of turn 5 for me is that the smallest of straights before going into the chicane.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the first victim of the infamous curb.
That inside curb at turn 5 isn't very nice.
Tin Man sets the benchmark of 1:15.4 on the soft tyres, and we'll see what some of those drivers around him can do. As Mike is kind of like Richard is now out of qualifying as well, and that's looking like that's on the exit of turn 4 maybe this time. So,
hopefully it's not happened like what happened to Felipe Massa in 2009, but in that qualifying section.
Yeah, a few drivers already really struggling with that section of the track. We worried it might be a bit of a problem area for certain drivers, and it's really proving that already, even in qualifying. So we've got 2 drivers who would definitely not be doing a lap. Patsman has now joined the session. He had to install an update to the game before he joined us, but he is now here, but he will start from the back as a result of that. We've got championship leader Malc, who is on a lap, but he has invalidated, so that won't do anything for him at this stage. We've got a new person to the league. Let's have a look at how he's getting on. Christian Potsper in the Renault. I hope I pronounced that right. I think I may have butchered it slightly. Do you think there's any different sort of mental aspect when you're in the first race in a league? There's any sort of different approach you might take? Would you say be a little bit more cautious than normal?
Yeah, just make sure you show in the league and the people that run the league that you're here to race. Maybe you might not be at your quickest, especially in your first race. It's going to take some time. This looks like an okay lap actually, and it's put him on provisional pole. But you know, it's first league. Just want the first race. You just want to be a little bit cautious. Just don't get involved in incidents, and you just move on.
That's it. Now lap time may have certainly turned a few heads amongst the other drivers, seeing him go straight onto provisional pole position. We had a debutant at the last race 2 weeks ago in Livingwall in Canada, and he was really quick as well. So we've got a few pretty quick drivers joining up for the league. Maggot, who is second in the championship, has invalidated his lap. Patsman, I think, might have been quite devastated he missed out on qualifying, so he's left the session again. We've got 2 racing points in second and third, so pretty good opening showing by them, but not many drivers, I would say, have done representative times on the soft tyres yet.
Yeah, it's just this little phase of qualifying. You don't know if someone's in a good lap or an out lap, or just an in lap even.
So we've got a few drivers currently on out laps, but everyone seems to be in very different stages of their programme at the moment in qualifying. I'm going to go on board with Livingwall. In fact, there's a few other drivers who have started laps. I think we might have some people on their second flying laps. We'll have a look at Ginger Tiger here to see what he's up to. Looks like he might be going for it on his second flying lap. He's currently third on a 1:15.6 up to the end of the second sector. He's a tenth of a second up on what he did previously, so he potentially could get him onto pole position depending how his final sector goes. Up to the penultimate corner now, and it's these last 2 corners, I find anyway, you almost have to just test your own patience, because it's so easy to just get on the throttle too early and run wide.
Especially at the last corner, because he's so close to the line. You just want to put your foot down or finger down if you're on a controller and floor it. And yeah, you have to be very, especially at race in the race as well. You don't want to be losing the back end, especially the exit of the last corner, damage your tyres, which could affect your race.
That's it. This is definitely a track that's not particularly kind to the tyres. They very rarely get a respite around here. Maybe the pit straight's the only time they get a chance to cool a little bit, but especially around this middle sector, there's massive stress on the front tyres due to the nature of the sector. And you've got Livingwall here on a lap. Already I saw at the start of sector 2 he was taking there's a lot of space between his car and the curbs, so I think he's already worried about something happening to him with the curbs, and it's getting that balance right. You don't want to hit the curb, but you also don't want to be too far away from it, because the closer you are to, it's a risk versus reward strategy almost.
Also, if you do go on those curbs, you might have a way of gaining time, as Livingwall goes on pole with a 15.1, I believe he's just set.
And very nice effort indeed, continuing his pace he showed at Canada. The race didn't quite go the way he would have hoped 2 weeks ago, but he definitely showed enough pace to suggest he's going to be a threat in races to come. Here we got C. Wilson on a lap. I actually believe a few weeks ago in the press conference on the forum, C. Wilson was actually saying he's really looking forward to this one. So, although he's struggled to score hefty points so far, as he invalidates his lap there, just to... Once again, I'm very good at doing the commentator's curse, it appears. But a long way to go yet, and he's quite confident around here, so hopefully we'll see him a little bit closer to the main pace. I'm going to follow Maggot now, who's just started his lap in the McLaren. And I don't know if you want to take us around a lap of a Hungarian quickly.
So he's just exited turn 3, going up the hill with the sector 1 split, going into turn 4, going into 6 there, before going into turn 5, where you try your best to get on the foot and go into the 6 and 7 chicane. Now, be wary of both curbs. You can take the second one a little bit more than the first. Runs a little bit on the grass before going into this lovely swooping middle sector complex. This corner's flat before a smear downshift into 6. Run a little bit over the curb and then breaking into this second gear hairpin, allegedly hairpin. Run wide on the curb, get the car ready for the penultimate corner. Make sure you don't lose the back end, and then make sure you get your line right through into the last corner. Shifts into third there momentarily and exit the final corner. What's this going to be? A 14.4. That's a very good lap.
Maggot just has a habit of pulling out these excellent qualifying laps out the bag, and that seems to be another one. A massive 7 tenths clear, and that's just laid down a gauntlet and said to everyone else, beat that if you can, because I don't see many people getting close to that, to be honest. That looked an incredible lap, and I think I even saw 1 or 2 little errors in there as well from him to suggest he could go even quicker than that.
Yeah, there's a couple of mistakes. No, not really. There wasn't much mistakes. Nothing wrong in that. Maybe a couple of moments where he might have put the tyre in the grass, or maybe on the curb, maybe a little bit too much. That's a very good lap on the McLaren.
Yeah, and he's currently very much in championship contention. Said just 8 points behind championship leader Malc, who's yet to do a lap, and is still in the pits with 7.5 minutes to go. Malc probably will be the first to admit he's probably not quite as quick as Maggot on overall pace, but it's been the consistency that's seen Malc up where he is, and in his eyes as well, a little bit of luck too. But if Maggot keeps on at that pace, he's going to be very tough to stop. We've got Cryptox on a lap. He's got Brennon's just in front of him. That might not be helping him tremendously. There is quite a dirty air effect on this game, but hopefully it's not affected Cryptox too much over the line. A 16-0 is just good enough for 7, while Trev has actually popped it onto the front row, but as no one can get into the 114s other than Maggot right now.
Yeah, it just shows how much of a good lap that was. You enter the middle point of qualifying, and, debating whether you should use that extra set of tyres as Christian Sosper, that's what we're saying. Goes P2 with a 14.8. He did have a little bit of traffic in the middle sector, which could have easily hindered him. That's a very good lap for the Renault.
Absolutely. We thought his first lap was pretty good, and he seems to be continuing that form, so fair play to him. He'll be one to watch out for, no doubt about it. I just saw an unusual thing with Pat's, man. He went into the pit lane wall. I don't know if he was on a lap, or finishing a lap, or on an in-lap, or what he was doing, but yeah, not the place you really want to put your car, so he'll try and get that damage repaired in the Haas garage. And Patsman is now in qualifying, which is good to see. But that wouldn't have been the start he would have wanted to it, that's for sure.
Don't want to be going into those walls, especially the ones at the pit lane.
Especially not in the race. That could destroy your race, especially if it's a planned pit stop.
And would be quite embarrassing.
Yeah, especially if it was caught on the stream. It's not what you want. We've got O'Stephen on a lap at the moment in the Ferrari. He was up in the first sector. He's still up through the middle part of the lap, about half a second on his previous best. He had a bit of traffic, but thankfully they got out of the way. Brennon's has now popped it into third, so we've got a few drivers now in the 14s to suggest Maggot might not quite have it all his own way in the latter stages of this qualifying session. And what's O'Stephen going to do over the line? He stays 10th. He improves by half second, but doesn't actually gain any positions.
I don't think he did improve. I know the Delta said he did, but his personal best was 16.185. Let me just check the race record. And his last, oh, that was his personal best. I take that back. It just said, yeah.
And wow, Maggot's not on pole position any longer. Living Wall has now edged it on a 14.3. So, well, that's going to definitely make Maggot take a little bit of notice, because the two of the newcomers to the league are first and third around him. So there's definitely more competition at the front now with the introduction of these two drivers, and it's good to see someone getting up there and challenging Maggot at this stage.
Your prediction of Maggot getting pole has gone severely downhill after he set that 14.4, so very good lap from Living Wall. Getting into the 14.3s, very impressive.
Oh, Nitrogash on a lap, and I think Living Wall may have impeded him there. It's through the second sector. It's so difficult in that situation to move out of the way, but Nitrogash I don't think will be particularly happy about that. It looked like he was on a lap, but he'll have to back out now of that one, and probably go into the pits, and he'll have time for one more run at the end of the session. But Living Wall won't be making too many friends with that one, I'm afraid. But yeah, I'm going to stop predicting now, because I do tend to curse things quite often, and so far that's what I seem to be doing. So I don't want to get too many of these drivers on my bad side before the final race. We've got Patsman on a lap at the moment, so he's recovered from that incident with a pit wall, and he's now in sector 2 in the Haas. Good for him to be in qualifying. Of course, he did miss the start of it, but he's now worked his way through the middle sector. Looks a little bit nervous, I would say, at the steering wheel. A few corrections through the corners. Looks like he's very much on a cycle lap, but of course, he probably, well, unless he aborts this lap, he's probably going to be his only lap, so it's
he might have enough time just to get round and start a second fast lap.
Well, he's not. Yeah, he's decided not to pit, so let's see what this lap time does for him across the line. It's 13th on a 16.3, and it definitely looked like a nervous lap. So if he's got enough fuel in for another lap, he could go again, and hopefully that lap he's had experience on the track will mean this lap's a lot better for him.
His teammate, Mike, has just gone for a little spin just before the sectors. And Maggot has lost it.
That's the exit of the chicane, turn 6 and 7, I believe, looking at the map.
He might have gone onto the curve a little bit too much. And that's going to throw a big spanner into his qualifying positions, because there's still time for other people to beat that lap. He could be not second P2.
Yeah, and I really have cursed him, unfortunately. So P2 is the absolute best. Maggot will be able to start now. We'll be hoping that nobody else can leapfrog him. We have got Malc, though, the championship leader, who did do a lap initially on the medium tyre, which was good enough for 10th, but now he's on the softs. We'll see what sort of time he can do. I think for him, he'll be aiming to at least be with Maggot, even if he's not ahead of him. So sort of maybe looking at getting in that gap between Maggot and Christian there.
Let's see what people are doing on their final qualifying runs. People are leaving it right to the last second to get a lap time in, like what happened with Lewis Hamilton at Sochi in real life Formula 1. We're waiting to the very last second to get the lap times in.
That's it, going for the very best track conditions and perhaps playing the risky game of not getting a lap in at all, but they obviously think the reward is worth it. We've got Ginger Tiger on a lap at the moment, currently in P7. He's marginally up for the middle sector, but not sufficiently so. He's going to need a very good final sector here to try and improve on his current 7th place. He's got his teammate just in front of him currently on the leaderboard. So Ginger Tiger round the final corner. Looks a pretty good final sector, to be fair, so this could be enough for him to move up, and yes it is. He's up to 4 for 14.9. That was a very good final sector there, and it's helped propel him up 3 spots as Spud retires, so he won't be doing anything now. Who else have we got on a lap? I believe Mileham is pretty close now, coming around the final corner. What's he going to do in the McLaren? He's not improved. He was up through the middle sector, but for whatever reason, something must have happened in the final sector, and he stays where he is for now. Who else have we got on a lap who's near the end? I'm just trying to have a quick look. Got Malc, who's in the second sector. He's got his teammate just in front of him, so I wouldn't say Red Bull have coordinated that very well. Having the two cars next to each other, that will not be helping him through this part of the track.
Tin Man's coming out of the last sector. What can he do in the pink Mercedes? A 49 puts in P6. Yeah, I did notice that from the two Red Bulls. They're quite close to each other, in fairness.
Yeah, and see there, Malc picked up a little bit of understeer there for the penultimate corner. To be expected, I would say. Christian did improve, but stays third. Living Wall improves to a 14.2. What's Malc going to do? It's good enough for 4, for 14.8. I think he'll take that. He might not be too happy about his teammate, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either, but Living Wall there, under the radar a little bit. He's really focused on them, and he's improved to a 14.2, which is a very good lap. And the Alfa Romeo is on pole.
Yeah, and Trev at the last improved from 8th to 6th. Good effort from Trev. I would say definitely his best qualifying performance so far in F4, and I think it's 3 or 4 races he's done up to now. But yeah, congratulations to Living Wall. He did 2 laps that were good enough for pole position there. Improved at the end. He didn't really need to, but that's a massive statement sent out there to the rest of the field. Living Wall definitely has the pace to win this.
Indeed. Yeah, as we said, if he'd had 2 laps, then he could have been pole. Maybe I'll just give him the front row, but obviously it doesn't work like that in these things. It's called Formula 1. Maggot will be looking for a good start, especially with a bit of a climb, not climb, a run down to turn 1.
And to those that have crashed out in qualifying, Maggot being one of them, how much does that dent your confidence ahead of a race? Is it easy to get out of your mind, or does it play in your mind, on your mind a bit?
Not particularly. If Maggot was having a purple first sector, if he's let that one go, that will still be in mind coming at lights out. But sure he just got to dust himself off and pick himself up going into the race.
Okay, so the grid then, we've got Living Wall on pole, Maggot second, Christian on his debut in third, great performance from him. We've got Malc in fourth, Ginger Tiger 5th, Trev in 6th, Brennan 7th, Tin Man is 8th, Nitrogash 9th, Mileham completes the top 10. I've got O'Stephen in 11th, C. Wilson 12th, Cryptox is 13th, Patsman is 14th. We've then got Mike, who didn't actually set a lap time, and we've also got Tinnis, Richard and Spud, who also didn't set a lap time. So 4 drivers in qualifying that actually didn't get a lap in. I think Mike tried to, but he seems to have a few issues out there on the circuit. We certainly saw one where he'd spun, I think it was at the end of Sector 2. So, what inspire confidence, will it?
No, Spud was out on a lap as well on the mediums. He just didn't get round in time. I don't think he definitely had time to complete it, but I don't think he was happy with it.
Yeah, Spud has been a driver, unfortunately, but seems to have struggled for confidence on this game. Like, he was really, certainly in the last couple of games, he's been fighting for championships, winning races, but on this game, just doesn't seem to have fitted for him. He's only scored 1 point this season, and he just doesn't, he admitted himself, he just isn't getting to grips with this game, which, I don't know, it's sort of surprising from my point of view anyway, because I don't think, certainly from 2019 to this game, I wouldn't say there's been a massive handling overhaul as such, certainly not what we've seen with some of the other games, so I don't know, is there any explanation, do you think, as to why that might be?
Obviously depends, maybe you don't have enough time to be on this game compared to what you have been in previous games, like myself as a league racer, you know, maybe you have things to do, things crop up, and you might not be able to put the time and effort into really putting time into the game. And, but yeah, it's just sometimes, you know, people might not like it, even though there might be the slightest of handling changes, but they might throw a few people off the game.
I almost feel like I'm going to be a little bit of a snitch here, but I feel like Tin Man might be getting in a little bit of a bother after the race, because I think he started before the admin did. Started the race before the admin did, so that won't go down terribly well. But nevertheless, we're out away on the formation lap, and in terms of the tyre selections for those outside the top 10, we've actually got quite a difference really in strategy. The majority of drivers have opted for the medium tyre, but you've got Wilson and Mike on the hard tyre, and Tinus on the soft tyre. I often struggle to understand starting on the same tyre as those in the top 10 when you're outside the top 10. Are you a little bit surprised by that decision by Tinus as well?
Maybe because the softs have got obviously more grip than the slower compounds. Maybe he's expecting to be up in 11th, maybe even the top 10 by the end of the opening lap. Depends what happens at turn 1. But it's a little bit weird, especially that you're going in 16th and you're still on the softs. Maybe it might be in a bit of driver error, and he's literally forgotten to change tyre compound. But we'll see. Time will tell.
That's it. You get so much into the zone of a race, sometimes you completely forget about setting a strategy. It can be easily done. I'm sure we've all done it at one stage or another. It's going to be one of the tougher tracks to overtake on, but certainly in the first few corners there's plenty of scope to gain a few places. Yeah,
back to your point about being so zoned in the league race. I remember once I overfueled my car a lot in the league race once. Very clunky off the line, let's say. Hopefully the drivers haven't done that.
Would have felt like you were carrying a hefty passenger almost.
I thought I cloned myself and chucked myself to the back of the car.
I don't think that would be a very comfortable ride. We've got the last few drivers lining up on the grid, and very soon we'll be waiting for the lights to illuminate in front of us, and when they go out we'll be racing. So as I try to get the good camera view, there you go. The lights illuminate and they're about to go out now, and the racing begins here at the F4 Hungarian Grand Prix. It looks like a pretty decent start for those on the front row, but it actually looks like Maggot has got by far the better start and takes the lead of the race. We've then got Malc. It is down the inside into turn 1. Is he going to be able to make the move up to second? Looks like Livingwall just didn't get away as well as he would have hoped. Further behind, we've got, looks like a Ferrari up into 4th place. That's Trev, so he's had an excellent start too. And Malc does take second, so Maggot gets the perfect getaway he wanted, but the Alfa Romeo just didn't get going at all and is down to 3rd place.
Wasn't the greatest of starts, but really good start for Maggot. Livingwall will be looking to try and get past the Red Bull as quick as he can. And apparently he'll be back somewhere in sector 2. It doesn't look like there's much, but really good start for the McLaren.
Oh, looks like we've got, just looking further down, feels like Mileham is recovering after, I don't know if it was contact or a spin, so it's interesting to see if he's got any damage. Looks like it was just a spin because his car doesn't look like there's any damage on the front wing. But Mileham has dropped to the back as a result.
There's not as much damage on that McLaren front wing. But look at that. The different storage of teammates. One's at the back, and one's got a healthy 1.1 second lead out in front as he ends lap 1.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if we get the opportunity to speak to Mileham at some point, because he won the season opener in France, but since then he's just really struggled for one reason or another, and we thought after the first race that he was going to be right up there. What's going on further down? Looks like we've got Nitrogash who's trying to make a move on Tin Man down to turn 1. That got a bit tight at the exit of the corner, and now the Racing Point is trying to come back down the inside Nitrogash into turn 2, and he squeezes him out and retakes P7. That's some great action between the pair of them. Might have made slight contact, but Ginger
on the Racing Point.
Yeah, Ginger Tiger did not want to give that up at all, but Maggot's already stretched his lead at the front to 1.5 seconds, and the top 3 already quite spread out, so the pace that Livingwall showed in qualifying is maybe struggling to connect it up straight away here. And we got a yellow flag in sector 2, and that's for Spud, who has spun round, so his unfortunate season just kind of continues really. Looks like he's been caught out by the curve at turn 4, and he has got some front wing damage, so he will have to pit. Disaster for him.
Mileham, as we were saying, he's just pitted and he's come out on a set of hard tyres, so he must have been some damage somewhere. The pit stop for the McLaren.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is one of those tracks where even with any slight damage, you're going to feel it a lot around this track, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, and Trev has left the session. Looks like he might have disconnected. He can rejoin, thankfully. Especially now that the corner cutting glitch has been fixed. But for a moment at least anyway, he'll be a bit slower than he would want to be. We've got C. Wilson in the pits as well. He's having a change of front wing, so a few drivers already been caught out by some of the curbs around here. But further down we've got, oh, that's Christian, who's looking to make a move on Trev's Ghost before he rejoins. Might as well take the opportunity while you can, I suppose. And Christian and Tim Man move up a place, and it's important for Trev he rejoins as soon as possible because that AI ain't going quickly.
It's all and he's just going to be tumbling down on the grid. Need to be back in that car quite quickly, otherwise it won't be good for him. Ooh, there's an early penalty.
Yeah, it's not what you want to see for someone on lap 3 because it's a long race ahead. If you're picking up penalties at this early stage, it almost puts you into cautious mode before you've even got into the race, really.
Yeah.
But Malc clearly desperately trying to keep up with Maggot, but he just hasn't got the pace to do so at the moment. The gap at the end of lap 3 is already 2.5 seconds, and we've seen this from Maggot before. He can just drive off into the distance. It's almost very Sebastian Vettel-esque from his Red Bull dominant era. He just has that ability to just get into the lead and drive away. And well, Malc's clearly trying hard to stop that from happening. We've got further behind. I can get on board with that. That's Trev. Oh, what's we got further down, actually? I'm going to focus on Patsman, who's making a move on Richard. This is way down for 13th, but it looks like Patsman's made the move stick pretty comfortably, actually. I thought he wasn't going to make the corner initially. Further upfield, we've got Cryptox and Tinus battling away from P11. It looks like Cryptox has made the move stick. Oh no, Malc has gone! The championship leader!
That's huge.
That's a massive moment in the championship. We saw him get a penalty just a lap ago. He was clearly pushing very hard, and he's obviously overstepped it around that section of the track, which just catches so many drivers out.
That would be relief for Maggot, who's now got a 4.3 second lead, which will feel like a Sebastian Vettel-esque Sunday drive out in front.
It'll feel like a dream to him. He didn't even get pole. He saw Livingwall have a pretty poor start. He got the lead, and then his championship rival behind him has just spun out of contention almost. So I think Maggot will be just checking that he's awake right now, because I don't think this could have gone any better for him so far.
Yeah, he'll have to be going down the back straight, pinching himself to see if he's not in a dream.
He tell you what, with that sort of luck, he's worth putting a bet on in the next few weeks, because I think he'd win it. We've got Malc in the pit, so obviously he got some damage as a result of that contact, and that's going to be a really tough recovery drive now for him. He had an 8-point lead coming into this, but Maggot could be championship leader by the end of this race.
Hopefully you haven't cursed Maggot now, wherever you've done.
We've got a few gaps spread out across the leading group. Obviously Livingwall has got quite a margin ahead of him to Maggot, but we'll see if we can do anything about that. Trev at the moment, I think he's back in control of his car now, Trev, but thanks to the AI taking over, he's got quite a train of cars behind him, which he'll be looking to pull away from. Just shows even just a lap with being out of control of your car can really cost you.
We did see Tiger lunge down his inside and turn 1, lap 3, or lap 4, one or the other, and it was a really close battle with a switchback from Trey, just about got in front of him. See if the Racing Point can do anything going down the back straight. We'll have DRS. We must use his DRS as well. And the Racing Point getting his slipstream is the important question. I think he will.
He's having a look down the inside. It's a late dive, but the Ferrari's gonna come back at him on the exit. They're gonna go side by side to turn 2. Who's gonna be later on the brakes? Is anyone gonna try Daniel Ricciardo-esque move around the outside? I think Trev looked for it, and he's gonna. Oh, he nearly found extra momentum, but it looks like Ginger Tiger's got that move done. That was hard fought between the pair of them, but at the end, eventually the Racing Point got the move stick despite Trev's best efforts.
More good news for Mag out in front. As Livingwall just picked up a 3-second time penalty for Patton. The theoretically now his lead's under 7 to 8 seconds, which is must be nothing like that in front.
One thing that the likes of Malc and Mileham in particular I think will be hoping for now is a safety car. That's something they almost need to get their race back alive with the amount of time they've lost. With obviously Malc dropping down the order, all the pressure on the constructors leaders, Red Bull, now forced to Nitrogash, who's had a pretty decent start, but is now the next one behind Trev, and if anything, Nitrogash himself is coming under some pressure too from Brennan's. So the Red Bull duo have been very good so far this season, but this is the first time really I would say they've looked under sufficient pressure, neither one of them particularly near the front, which is a surprise.
Look, on my screen, you went onto the grass down the back straight. It looked like you lost the back end. They exited turn 1, which will give the Mercedes a bit of a closing gap on them. They give Trevor a bit of time to chill.
And I've got to say, you called it earlier, and I have to say, well done on that one. Tinnis, who we mentioned, we were talking about him starting on the soft tyres from 16th. Well, he's managed to make his way up to 9th, so he's gained 7 positions already, so he really has made that soft tyre work for him.
Just let me do all the prediction things and we'll be laughing.
Yeah, I think I'll leave that to you for now, and I've got too much of a curse when it comes to that. You seem to have it spot on. I hope you don't predict the whole race, though.
We've just cursed him as he's picking up penalty. Oh dear. He was having such a good start.
Yeah, I'm almost...
As we do have drivers in the pits.
Yeah, get into that window now. Maggot. I'm a little bit surprised we see Maggot in so early, because he didn't really need to do any sort of undercut. He almost could have waited for others to pit before he did it, so... maybe wanted to get rid of those soft tyres perhaps, but the hope for him now will be he doesn't come out in traffic. Where is he coming out? He's just behind Patsman and the Haas, so he's got a little bit of traffic, but thankfully Patsman himself isn't in like what we call a DRS train, so he should be able to make a move stick fairly easily, so he's not worked out too badly for him in the end.
Not that bad. He's not. If he was out in behind Trey in that little train, then there'd be a little bit more whirlwind. He's 1.1 seconds behind the car, and he's got a couple of seconds behind the car in front of him. So hopefully he'll be alright for McLaren.
So it'll be interesting to see about what happens to Christian, because obviously he's along with Maggot. He did the undercut to go onto hard tyres early. So he's obviously hoping to get the jump on some of those around him. Maybe Living Wall is one driver he's perhaps targeting. So what I'll be interested to see now is if Living Wall decides to respond straight away. And he does, yeah, he does pit. So obviously feeling like he needs to cover off some of those behind him who have gone for the undercut. He slows it down in time for the pit lane, which is a first job. And the only one now still out on soft tyres is Tinnis. Of course, he started on them, so his will be at least a lap or two fresher than those who did qualifying on them.
Spud, who's down 18th, takes a time penalty for the cut-in.
Yeah, we got Maggot. Ooh, close behind Patsman, trying to take 4th place as quickly as he can. Doesn't want to... Well, he's got a comfortable lead still, but he still doesn't want to caught up behind anybody. He tried to go a bit on the outside there, but again, just wasn't quite close enough. Not Patsman, of course, although they're not technically racing in terms of the greater picture of the race, they are obviously track position-wise together, so Patsman's under no obligation to move out the way or anything like that.
Give him a bit of a squeeze, the accelerator corner, nothing wrong with that. Position.
And Living Wall's maintained position over Christian, and better for him is that Christian has just picked up a penalty as well, so that'll be Living Wall and Christian with a penalty each now. And in fact, the only driver near the front who I don't think I've seen a name pop up for a penalty is Maggot himself, so not only has he got a comfortable lead, he seems to be driving pretty well within the track limits too.
Yeah, that's important. You need to balance your pace as well as track limits. You don't want to be super quick, but sacrifice it by getting a few penalties. You don't want to be really slow with penalties, but that could come through as well.
Oh, we've got Tin Man and Brennan's make some contact. We've then got a Red Bull running very wide there. What on earth's going on here? We've got... Oh no, it's Tin Man back in the pits, so he's got damage. I thought I saw a yellow flag briefly, and it looks like... Well, there still is a yellow flag now, actually. But Tin Man's back in the pits, so that's a disaster for him. He was running around the top 5 before the pit stops. Oh, and we've got another yellow flag in sector 2. What's happened now?
He went for a spin at the chicane. He's either got grass on his tyres and he just went round. And he's gone round again the next corner. Oh dear, not very good. The McLaren driver, whose teammate is in the net lead. Now he's getting lapped by the current race leaders.
And the thing is, Maggot's that quick, he could be back in the lead full stop soon, because he's only a couple of seconds behind this pair who are fighting for the lead, Osteven and Cryptox. So it just shows how much pace he has compared to the others. We've got the yellow flag again in sector 2 and 3. Is that Mileham again? Perhaps.
Yeah, it's not a great evening for the McLaren. Maybe if the Alpha could help living well here, maybe a little bit of team orders in play. Try and hold up the McLaren as long as you can, while sacrificing those set of mediums. But maybe he'll just want to go out and set some time in the lead.
And this could be a little bit more tricky as well for Maggot. In fact, he's approaching 2 cars that are together. Is that Cryptox will have the DRS himself to defend, so he's in a decent position here to try and do a good cause for his teammate for sure. And he doesn't seem too eager to overtake the Ferrari for good measure, I would say too.
Red Bull with Malc and
oh, Malcolm Brennan's going. Oh, and Mileham gets
very close.
Oh, very close there, and it looks like Brennan's has got the position. Mileham has decided enough is enough. It's been a bit of a nightmare evening for him, and he retires in the pit lane. So that's the first retirement of the evening. But Malc is fighting with a driver I think he would have expected to be around, but perhaps not in a position he would have expected to be.
Meanwhile,
oh, and he makes a bit of did he make a bit of contact there with the Mercedes coming into the chicane at turn 6 and 7? Looks like he might have done. He's lost a position to Tinus, and has he got more damage because of that, or was he just trying to get his tyres back up to temperature? I can't see at the moment. I've got a helicopter camera angle, so I can't actually see the damage at the moment.
I love the helicopter camera in real life, but now's not the time to show it.
It's difficult to see from.
And that camera angle doesn't help either.
Is he coming in the pits? That'll be a test. No, he's carrying on, so he doesn't think either damage is bad enough, or but he hasn't he. So, but either way, he's really struggling for grip.
Maggot's gone round outside the Alpha, yeah, and he's got the move done.
That's a really crucial move. Cryptox may have wanted to help out his teammate, but Maggot just has so much more traction on those tyres and just so much more pace that he didn't really have an answer in the end, and he's just got one more car to pass, and then he's back in the Vettel situation, I guess.
Yeah.
We've got Ginger Tiger, who's got a penalty with Tin Man's struggles. Ginger Tiger's now become the leading racing point in this race. And I think Livermore has gained a little bit of time through this at the moment. Obviously, Maggot's stuck behind some drivers as Cryptox picks up a penalty. But it's looking fairly decent at the moment for Maggot, and he doesn't need to rush a move here on the Ferrari. He doesn't need to try anything rash. To be honest, he'll probably have a decent run into turn 1, as we actually see the Ferrari get a little bit out of shape there through the penultimate corner, which will give Maggot all the ammunition he needs to make a move into turn 1. Let's see if he can manage it down the pit straight. He's got DRS open. He's going to try and go to the inside. Is he going to make a dive for it? No, thinks better of it. Sort of shows his nose to the Ferrari, but decides to stick behind here. Is he going to try and move a Daniel Ricciardo type move here into turn 2? Let's have a look. He's having a look for it, I think, but again, the Ferrari just positions his car nicely, and there's nothing Maggot can do at the moment.
Having a look to assess his options.
Yeah, not
Hetzman, who's kind of caught up with these lot a little bit. And obviously, if those 4 obviously close up, that will help living well in the other Alfa Romeo, who's still closing time. The pass.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. This is a good thing for Livermore right now, the fact that Maggot's in this sort of jam of cars. He can't do anything about it. And we've got another sort of queue of cars here behind Ginger Tiger as well. We've got Trev, Nitrogash and Tinus all behind him. Malc is kind of close back up to Brennan's again, but I have to say 13th place is not where he would have wanted to be. We've got a yellow flag in sector 2. I'm just trying to see what that's about.
It is C. Wilson and Moreno's slow at the exit of turn 5. That's what the yellow flag is for, and well, Mag gets back in the lead again as the Ferrari hits.
Yeah, obviously Ferrari has no obligation really to help or hinder any of the title contenders, so he's just running his own race and decides then is the right time to pit, and of course that stops Cryptox doing any sort of undercut on him. He's gone on to another set of mediums though, has the Ferrari, so that pretty much means he's going to have to stop again because he can't run 2 sets of mediums to the end. That's not legal.
Cryptox is putting the pressure on Maggot here. This could revolve in something interesting. Briniza versus ERS a lonely 13%, which is not very high. Hopefully he'll be harvesting some through the middle sector, but I think he's following my advice.
Perhaps what he touched on earlier with obviously trying to help out his team, maybe he's just trying to put some pressure on Maggot, maybe force him into an error.
Yeah, maybe you can pick up a couple of warnings, maybe a few lockups as well on those hard tyres.
And it's right in what you say as well, like even if Maggot does have a comfortable lead when this all shakes out, you've got to consider as well, if we have a late safety car, like that's when the penalty situation's really going to take effect, because if there is a late safety car, the gap's reduced dramatically, and all of a sudden the amount of penalties you have becomes critical.
And it could be anyone's game.
So you've not just got to drive quickly, you've got to drive cleanly as well from that regard. We've got Cryptox in the pits, he's gone on to hard tyres, so he's nicely in line for a one-stopper here, so that gives him the advantage over O'Steven, who's definitely going to have to stop again. Running 2 sets of mediums, I wonder if that was what he meant to do, because I couldn't imagine that he would have really gone for that strategy, because it's pretty much shoehorned him into a 2-stop now.
And Malc and the Mercedes of Brent, they're still going at it, going through turn 1 to 2. Mercedes coming out on top of there. There's a little bit of a train going on, and it is coming around James Tiger. Obviously we mentioned that before, and Tinus has put himself in a very good position in that Alpha Tauri, but he has to pit again as he's on soft tyres. He's starting on the softs, he can't just go on soft tyres the entirety of the Grand Prix.
It'd be a bit of a dream, wouldn't it, but unfortunately the rules don't allow you to do so, and we've got our final pit stop out of the leading cars. Obviously Mike as well has yet to pit, but we've got Patsman in the pits in the Haas, so that's really now, this is the kind of order that we have now once Patsman re-emerges. We've got Maggot, Livingwall and Christian, and I have to say those three have really pulled out a gap over the rest now.
And there's not much of a gap between the top 3. The gap between Livingwall is definitely closed in that sequence. The gap's down to 1.3 seconds, lurking around that mark. Might have been a mistake from Maggot we didn't see. But that gap is certainly closed.
I wonder if being involved in that traffic that he was in before they all pitted, I wonder if that's damaged his tyres a little bit more than he perhaps would have wanted.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe the tyres might be in use more harder than what Livingwall has.
And of course as well, we do seem to see on this games that certain drivers don't fare so well on other tyres. Maybe he's just not getting to grips with the hard tyres as well as those around him.
Maybe he could have gone on a 2-stop, more aggressive medium strategy. Soft, medium, soft, or soft, medium, medium.
If Livingwall will be looking at this thinking, thank you Cryptox, you did me a good job there for the team.
More importantly, still in the lead. Livingwall has got DRS. So this could be a tasty little battle coming up, as we are round about the halfway point with the Grand Prix.
Absolutely, the top 3 are very much... And Tinus is going to go for a move, is he? No, he thought about it. Down the inside, Ginger Tiger into turn 1, thinks better of it. He kind of needs to make a move for his race, really, because the soft tyres, he needs to get past Ginger Tiger to really make that soft tyre stint work for him, as Maggot picks up a penalty now as well. So it's weird how rejoining in traffic has really affected Maggot. Like, he looked in firm control of this race, and now all of a sudden he's very much under threat.
Yeah, that pit stop has put him under pressure. Now he's picked up a penalty. I think they're both on 3 seconds each in terms of penalties, so this is a legitimate 1 second gap now. And
likewise for Christian in third as well, he also has 1 penalty, and I have to say he's been we haven't really noticed him too much in the race, but he's quietly coming into contention too.
Yeah, he's just been calmly doing this thing. It's something that the midfield teams in real life Formula 1 would do. So quite fitting that he's in the red-up. Yeah, these top threes could be a very exciting battle.
And for Malc now, obviously, he did that early. He had to do that early stop onto hard tyres. So he's lucky. He's done 11 laps on them up to now. I can't imagine those hard tyres will make the end. So for Malc now, is his best hope just to get into the points?
Yeah, that's been a great race for him. A couple of mistakes coming in. And it's just his best hope is to try and just get any points that he can in this Grand Prix. Tennis, they've been going for quite some time on those softs. Surely those tyres are going to degrade some point.
You would definitely think so, and he's just picked up a penalty as well. He's clear. I wonder if that's just a little bit of impatience, you know, that he's behind his racing point. He knows that this is really affecting his race because Ginger Tiger can probably get to the end on those tyres, whereas Tinnis knows he has to pit again. So this really isn't a battle he needs to be in, but he just can't seem to find a way past the racing point. Maybe he needs to tactically use his ERS, maybe at a place where Ginger Tiger's not expecting it.
Meanwhile, it's all closed up. It's bunched up big time up in front.
It really has. It looks to me like the quickest one out of the three at the moment is the guy in third, and the slowest is the one in first, and that's meaning they're all bunching up together. Livermore's right behind Maggot. I'm going to try and get a quick look at that McLaren. I almost wonder if he's got a bit of damage or something, because he seems to really struggle with pace, and Tinnis pits, so he's obviously had enough of being stuck behind the racing point and has decided to pit now, and he's going to take on a set of mediums that should get him to the end. I don't think that'll be too much of an issue, but it'll be interesting to see where he sort of ends up in this whole race, because there's a lot of drivers out there now who won't need to stop again, so he's going to have to hope that he's got a lot of pace over those guys.
The yellow flag in sector 3 is for Spud, who has just lost the back end going into the pits. He's doing a bit of lawn mowing. Christian's picked up a 3-second time penalty, that will affect him.
Spud
called it a day.
Yeah, Spud is, again, a bit like Malham, just had a really difficult day here at the Hungarian. It is one of those tracks, if you can't find the rhythm, it's a really tough race to do. We've got yellow flag now in sector 1, I think that's just Spud still, isn't it? We've got Brennons who's picked up a penalty, and this is really fascinating now. Like, Maggot clearly isn't enjoying those hard tyres, and it's going to be the first opportunity here for Livermore to potentially make a move. Is he going to be close enough to ever go into turn 1?
Might be a great opportunity to exit at turn 1, because the RS is a lot different. But Maggot is roughly in the single digits, and you've got Livermore who's in the 80s. So Livermore's got a lot of ERS to use and get this move done.
And that really does show just how well Livermore's driving, because he's right there with the race leader, despite the fact that he's not using anywhere near as much ERS. And further behind, we've got a great battle here between Brennons and Malc. They've been going at it for a number of laps, and Malc trying to go around the outside of turn 2, can't quite make the move stick, and these two are just battling all the time. They're really enjoying life, I think, down there. Malc maybe not where he wants to be, but he seems to be having a lot of fun against Brennons as he nearly goes into the back of him through turn 4, and then on the exit as well, turn 5, and into the chicane they go. And they've got Stephen and Patsman, who we saw up at the front early on. But Malc has got...
I just saw him going through the middle sector.
Yeah, that was very strange on my screen. He sort of went off track and then he glitched back onto the track again. Very weird. So false alarm there, Malc's fine. But yeah, that was very strange.
Livermore could have an opportunity here, but I think he's a little bit too far behind for turn 2. Looks up to good measure.
With that extra ERS, he's going to have some very good opportunities. He just needs to make sure he gets a good enough run out the final corner.
Yeah, that's where he needs to deploy a little bit of it. Just to get quicker next to the last corner. This is 6 tenths, 7 tenths covering the top 3. Great to see.
Yeah, I have to say, after what looked like Maggot was just going to drive into the distance, I was certainly not expecting this to suddenly turn into this close of a three-way fight for the lead. It's incredible, really. And right now, you couldn't really say who's going to win this one. You can make cases for any of them, really.
Christian has got the more penalties out of the 3. 6 seconds worth, like the other 2 with 3. He did have a little look there going into the final corner with the Renault. But this is going to be really close.
Apologies there, so to make sure it was still streaming because I got a message saying that it wasn't broadcasting or something.
And
he's going for it down the inside to turn 1. Is he going to be able to make it sticky? Oh, he has a bit of an oversteer motor. Oh, Christian's got into the wall!
Oh.
In Christian's attempts to perhaps take advantage of what was going on in front of him, he's obviously got a bit over-eager and he's slammed it into the wall and he's got damage, and that is really going to affect his chance, and it means now it's a two-way battle for the lead. And Christian perhaps, like I say, a bit over-eager in his attempts to get through. That's a real shame for him.
And he has to nurse a damaged car all the way back to the pits.
Look at this, side by side into turn 4. That was incredibly close between Trev and Ginger Tiger, and Trev gets the place. There was a bit of barging there up the straight towards turn 4. Got a bit aggressive there, but Trev makes the move stick. And they're just coming up now to the wounded Renault as it limps back to the pits. But some incredible action there. And Maggot keeps the lead for all that, which I wasn't expecting. But Living Wall got a bit eager on the throttle himself, but frankly he managed to keep it out the wall.
Well, unfortunately for the Renault, he didn't.
Is that perhaps maybe first race kicking in, so, you know, eager to impress and maybe just overdid it slightly?
Yeah, he might have just... Oh, and Tin Man's gone for a spin. Oh, that was in the chicane. He must have hit Richard. I don't think there's any way that he lost that himself. But yeah, that must have been a bit more confident on the first race, and well, it's just really unlucky for the Renault.
Absolutely, it really is, and hopefully, like I said, we've seen how much pace he's got, and he can now go on to the mediums to the end, so points could still be up for grabs for him, but it's not definitely not where he wanted to be. And so Living Wall still right behind Maggot, but Maggot might be feeling a little bit better now. He's obviously already seen Living Wall have a moment in his attempts to get past him, and Christian hit the wall, so Maggot might be feeling a little bit more confident now.
Yeah, those type of things do turn a race. That could help McLaren and Maggot big time.
In terms of Malc, then, he's currently now up to P6, of course. He's still very much with Brennan's, because those two seem attached to each other for most of this race. But of course, he's now been on the hards for 17 laps. I say they won't make the end, but do you think it's possible?
With a little bit of tyre management, you never know what happens with these drivers, because they might have been keeping those tyres in top condition. Maybe a bit of a stint. Meanwhile, the top two are getting close, and there's a scrap for third as well. See if Ginger can get past the Ferrari with Trev. It doesn't look anything's going to happen in turn 1.
These two are going at it through turns 3 and 4. On the previous lap, it looks like Ginger Tiger was going to be closer than he was there, but he may have had a bit of a moment on the exit of turn 1, because in the end he wasn't in a position to make the move stick, and Trev stays third for now.
Maggot and Living Wall have caught back up to each other, which is great for the commentators to see, because I want to see another scrap for the lead. Absolutely,
and Living Wall's had a take 1 attempt at it. Is he going to fare any better at take 2, I wonder? Of course, these two now, they've got a 14-second gap to the cars behind them, and of course they're planning to go to the end here, so well, that almost released the shackles off them. They'll think we've got less pressure behind us now, so we can really go for this.
Yeah, have a little bit of a fight. ERS could come into Living Wall's hands. He needs to use it right now. I don't think he will. Maggot goes really defensive. That's Schumacher-esque in 2010. There is.
And Living Wall goes down the inside. This is what he tried previously. Is he going to be able to get on the throttle better this time? It looks like he is. Has he got the move done? It looks like he has. And he, of course, will have a second dosage of DRS down to turn 2. And he keeps the place. Is there any way for Maggot to fight back? It doesn't look like there is at the moment. So Living Wall, he made a bit of a mess of it the first time, but he's absolutely got it spot on second time around.
Yeah, very nice move down the inside into T1. And, well, it's just a really nice move. Simple, down the inside. Just remember not to lose the back end this time, which he hasn't done. And that's the lead for the... did you say he was the debutant? Or is this his
second race for Living Wall.
The win in the second race is mightily impressive.
Absolutely.
See if he can hold out.
Yeah, he's still got a long way to go, of course, and Maggot will not want to give that up easily. Of course, from a championship point of view, Maggot may start to think, well, you know, Living Wall's not really a challenger for me in championship, but are you going to be thinking like that? Of course, there's still 4 more races to go following this one.
No, ideally would want this win. If not any way to extend your lead, get another win under your belt, you'd really want to win this. Yeah, there's a bit of weaving going on. I don't know if this is rules, but
yeah, that might be a little bit. I think one move is okay, but that was quite a few moves there to break the toe. Not sure how legal that was, but he keeps the lead for now. I don't think Maggot was close enough, to be fair, in truth, but Living Wall obviously sensing the pressure behind him.
Oh, and let them off. It's racing.
And a bit like in qualifying, the 2 Red Bulls are together again. We've got Malc just behind his teammate Nitrogash, and this is obviously very much full position. So I wonder what's going to happen here. Nitrogash obviously knows that Malc's in a better championship position. Is this one of those moments where team orders might come into play?
Maggot's just picked up a penalty, which is disastrous for the McLaren. He picked up one before. He's picked up another one there, which is a bit of a worry. His mistakes starting to creep in.
Yeah, it's getting to that last stage of the race, and of course he'll be pushing to desperately try and get back that lead, but Living Wall's very nearly cleared the DRS here. Just needs a few more temps.
And he will have penalties advantage for him now as well. Maggot's been picking a couple of warnings up in this lap.
Does Living Wall feel the need to do take 2 of weaving? No, he does not. Maggots wasn't really close enough on that occasion either, so he decides that he doesn't really need to defend that one on this occasion.
Jeff must have been in his ear telling him to stop weaving. Must have been.
Yeah, do that again, you might be in trouble. Osteven makes his second pit stop. I've got to admit that medium to medium strategy, I think, has quite backfired on him. He's been looking at some decent points, I think, if he'd have gone on to hards. But now it's going to be a real tough ask. His best hope might be if he can get one more position into the top 10, and then he might be able to get fastest lap.
Well, he's down in P12, I think. This is going to be quite close, actually.
Ooh, and he's just behind Christian. And we know Christian's no slouch either, so it won't be an easy overtake that, even on the fresh soft tyres. And Maggot again is just staying with Living Wall. Neither of these two giving each other any breathing space. We saw how close they were in qualifying, and it's really no. Maggot's gone. He's spun out of the penultimate corner, and he's into the wall. And yet another mistake. And maybe Malc's been let off the hook here, because Maggot as well has made a big error. And when we look back at the end of the season, is that going to be one of those championship-defining moments?
You never know. Trey's overtaking him. Jesus will overtake him. Most probably both Red Bulls again before he even reaches the pit box.
Well, I mean, looking at sort of where he should come out ahead of Christian, because Christian, of course, lost his front wing a lot earlier on the lap, but he's probably looking at being, if he's lucky, he's ahead of Christian, but that's not where he wanted to be. We thought Maggot might be battling with Christian. We didn't think he'd be for 10th place.
I think he'll be out just in front, I think. Yeah, he will.
Yeah, he's just in front. That's crucial. He obviously, I don't think he would have had time to change his tyre compound either, because I don't think he would have gone for mediums if he had the choice.
No, neither would I. I'm trying my best to call in the softs.
Oh, and Brennan's is out of the race. And he's binned it out of turn 5 by the looks of it. I just went on board with Tinnis there, and yeah, Brennan's gone into the wall out of turn 5.
He's triggered a VSC. That's great timing for Living Wall, but he's decided to stay out. Oh,
yeah, he probably could have afforded the pit stop then.
Yeah,
quite easily.
Stay out.
I've got to be honest, it's very rare to see so many mistakes during a race. This track is punishing a lot of drivers tonight.
The top 3 are all staying out. Both Red Bulls are also staying out as well. Are they just not going to put a gamble going on to a new set of tyres? They're just going to position.
Livermore may be feeling now that he just wants to bring it home, take it steady. He doesn't want to risk losing it, because as we've seen so many drivers near the front do tonight, maybe Livermore just wants to take it carefully and bring home the win.
You wouldn't mind another lap of this VSC?
We would not indeed. Have we got anybody? I'm a little bit surprised we haven't really got anybody chancing their arm during the VSC, which is a little bit surprising. Usually you see 1 or 2 drivers take a new set of tyres.
Yeah, as Wilson's getting all sorts of problems in that Renault. It has been a good evening for him. He's losing the back end quite badly there.
And we've got...
and he's gone for a spin as well at the exit. F2.
Yeah, he mentioned he was looking forward to Hungary, but it just hasn't panned out the way he would have liked. Looks like Ginger Tiger caught Trev a little bit napping at the safety car a virtual safety car restart, because he's right up behind him again. But it's battle, which is now for 2nd place. I don't think they would have expected... Oh no, that's I got fooled there. I saw C. Wilson off the track, and I instantly thought it might have been the Ferrari. Obviously.
2nd false alarm of the evening.
Yeah, it's happening a lot tonight. But no, for now it's Trev in 2nd, Ginger Tiger in 3rd. Nitrogash is pretty close to him as well in 4th. And with the fact that Malc is still out on track, he's clearly not planning to stop again.
I just want to say something. The track has become very overcast in the last few moments.
That's a very...
VSC is coming out and in.
It's a very good point.
Some drops of rain near the end of this Grand Prix. Well, it could... So, we're in for a thriller.
Absolutely, it could potentially be another reason as to why Malc is staying out. Maybe he's thinking, like, if I stay out in these hard tyres and it starts to pour with rain, you know, I'm in a good position. I can just take a free pit stop, same as everybody else. The only issue to that, of course, is that he's right behind his teammate, which is not where you want to be when it's changeable conditions. Because, of course, if you do have to stop on the same lap, you're going to have to queue. But he looks like he's losing a bit of pace now to Nitrogash, which is understandable. He's done 24 laps on those hard tyres now. But to be fair, with what's happened to Maga, I don't think Malc will be too disappointed with how this is turning out. And, of course, 3rd place in the championship is Tin Man, and he's down in 13th. So it really hasn't been a good night for our championship contenders.
It's the people that are not really in the championship hunt all out in front, in fairness, which isn't a bad thing. They might push more if they're not in a championship battle.
Absolutely, and of course we've got a very different track to this coming up next week. We're in Baku for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, so that's going to be a... Well, we've seen plenty of mistakes here, and there's certainly a few bits of that track that can catch you out. I'm thinking particularly the castle section, which is barely wide enough for these cars as it is.
Maggot's just set the fastest after the Grand Prix. Did he do the extra championship point?
He does indeed, yeah, he will get an extra championship point for that, so up in 9th at the moment, as long as he stays in the top 10, he'll get the extra point for that, and he's looking good to still get a few points, but it's definitely not where he would have wanted to be. He looked so in control at the start, but ever since he went onto the hard tyres, he just didn't look as comfortable.
Livinwall's lead is slowly starting to drop. I know he might be just nursing the car home now in the last few laps, but it is coming down a little bit. It was 13 seconds, now it's down to 11.4, and anything can happen in these last few laps.
Absolutely, especially with weather potentially, like you've mentioned, it's got very overcast all of a sudden. It was bright and sunny earlier, but definitely not the case now, and I wonder if Livinwall's giving about 2 cars whipped to all those curbs.
Just in case.
Yeah, because he's seen so many drivers struggle with them. He doesn't want to take any risks at all. Trev's holding on pretty well for 2nd at this stage. We've got Mike in the pits. He's unfortunately a long way down at the moment.
Going on board the Livinwall, the exit at turn 4, he lifted off quite a big time there on exit. He just wants to get this car home. His 11-second lead should be enough, especially with the Trev battling with a couple of other drivers in the last few laps, so this should be enough. He's just trying to nurse the car home, make sure he doesn't do any mistakes, make sure he doesn't run wide, and just get that car across the finish line in the lead.
Absolutely. We've got a battle here for the final points paying position. We've got Christian and Steven, who are battling for 10th place. Christian, again, another driver who's running right up at the sharp end, but unfortunately had that spin out of turn 1. But he's still looking at a point here, but he's got very much up against it, against the Ferrari, who really wants to get that point. And he's on those soft tyres as well. We've got a yellow flag in Sec 2. I think that's for C. Wilson, who may have had another issue. So that's a real... That corner is really proven problematic. We've got Nitrogash now right up behind Ginger Tiger, who has, if anything, lost a bit of time to Trev behind him. So is Ginger Tiger just maybe starting to struggle, perhaps?
I did see the Racing Point lose the back end a little bit there, in fairness.
Yeah, he's obviously under pressure. I think this would definitely be his first podium of the season, I believe. So maybe perhaps feeling that pressure of trying to seal it here. And he's got Nitrogash behind him, who's been there, seen it, done it. He's got so many wins and podiums under his belt. He perhaps won't be feeling the pressure as much. And it's going to be a nervous few laps ahead for the Racing Point, who is losing a lot of time now to Trev in front of him. So he seems to be struggling somewhat.
Yeah, he's struggling massively, yeah. He's low on the RS as well. Nitrogash has got the advantage on that department. He has got an older set of tyres by a lap. You see, maybe Ginger's lost tyres. Maybe his tyres have fallen off the cliff, maybe pushing too hard in that stint to keep up with Trev, and that could have cost him.
I have to say, Malc, fair play to him. He obviously had a difficult start to the race, but the 27 lap stint he's done on those hard tyres has been incredible, and fair play to him. He's earned those points back.
And those haven't looked like to be falling off the cliff either. Just keep that car going in a straight line, and you'll be very happy with P5. Even not at the start of the evening, it didn't look good.
The yellow flag in sector 3.
Tin Man has just gone for a spin.
He really isn't enjoying this one tonight, and we've seen him have so many good races. Usually consistency's been Tin Man's forte, but tonight he's just had a bit of a nightmare. And this track is definitely thrown a few spanners in the works, I would say. And Tin Man's now out of the race. Has he retired in the pits, or?
No, he's ran wide his car is at the penultimate corner. I don't know if he's just called it a day there and couldn't be asked to go back to the pits, or he's just...
Nevertheless, it's a bad end to his day, and Mike has just taken the fastest lap of the race, so Maggot won't be getting that extra point anymore. Mike has put on a brand new set of softs and has just put in a 1:15. I don't think that's going to get beaten by anybody now.
Well, Living Wall is on his last lap, his last tour with the Hungarian.
Yep, let's go on board with Living Wall. Doesn't look like anyone, maybe Nitrogash might be able to get a move, but looks like everyone else is pretty set where they are. Obviously penalties may shake things out a bit, but Living Wall, look at the gap. He's been taking his last 5 laps very carefully. But who can blame him? It's a big moment for him on his second F4 race. He's about to get his first win, and that must be feeling pretty amazing now, as long as he can navigate this last half of a lap.
Hopefully he didn't do what Nigel Mansell did in Canada many years ago. Struck his car into anti-stall, but obviously these cars very far more better technology-wise than they were back then. And the gap has gone down massively in fairness. You got
to hand it to him though. When other people around him were losing their heads, he has kept his going. As Tinnis is now out of the race as well. In the final lap, he was running in 8th place, and he's now going to score no points. So Tinnis is... Oh, it's a disaster for him. He'll be so gutted about that. But Living Wall around the final corner, and he wins the Invictus F4 race here at the Hungarian ring pretty comfortably at the end. He could afford to take his foot massively off the gas in the last few laps. Trev takes second, but will he lose it across the line? Yes, he does. Due to penalties, Nitrogash takes second. Ginger Tiger takes third. Trev falls to 4th. Malc 5th. We got Patsman 6th. Crittox 7th. Maggot 8th. And then the rest of the points still to be decided. But Trev, because of penalties, doesn't get a podium. So it's Living Wall, Nitrogash in second. He'll be happy with that recovery drive. And Ginger Tiger for his first podium in third. And I have to say, that's not a podium I was expecting.
A very interesting podium. with the championship contenders all having not so good races. Well, Wilson's the last one to cross the line. He's going very gingerly in the last corner.
He might actually get 12th here. Actually, no, he might not actually because he was lap downs. I think he'll stay 13th.
Yeah.
Despite Tinnis's retirement. But yeah, congratulations to Living Wall. A very well earned win there. Hopefully we'll be able to hear a few words from him, obviously, because this is only his second race and the first time he's on the podium. I don't actually know if he'll join us in the podium thing afterwards, but we can but try. And we've got Nitrogash second and Ginger Tiger third. I usually tend to give a Driver of the Day award at this point, but seeing as you're new to this, I'll give you the honour of deciding first. Who would you say would be your Driver of the Day?
I would say Living Wall, because the way he was behind Maggot, he was 6 or 7 seconds behind in the race, and thought, oh right, this is Maggot's to win. And obviously after the pits, he's turned it around. He was in a second. Obviously lost the back end, but capitalised on Maggot's mistake and did really well.
Couldn't agree with that more, to be honest. For me, I mean, I probably would say Living Wall as well, but just to liven it up a bit, I'll choose somebody else. I'll say Nitrogash. For me, from 9th up to 2nd, I thought he did an excellent job. He kind of went a bit under the radar during the race, but I think ultimately, just through not making mistakes, he's found himself in that position, and fair play to us all. And he didn't pick up a penalty, which is only him and Richard managed to do that, so I think that's a pretty good defeat as well. So we'll
mention Patsman and Cryptok, who were 14th and 13th respectively, coming across the line 6th and 7th. Very good drives for the Haas and the Alfa Romeo.
I mean, you've probably been there before in that situation where you feel like you could have, I don't know, maybe won a race or got a much better result than you did. How do you think Maggot's going to be feeling right now?
I would be gutted if I was in Maggot's shoes right now. I wouldn't be a very happy person. I would just completely forget this race, dust yourself off, and get practicing for Baku.
Absolutely. Well, once we get into the lobby, I'll try and invite our podium sitters to the podium. The only annoying thing is, while the blue screen's on, is that only my voice will be able to be heard, so apologies about that, unfortunately. It's one of the disadvantages of PSN. But, hopefully we can get the podium sitters in pretty quickly. Just bear with me 1 minute. Invite Living Wall, we'll invite Ginger Tiger, who's third, and we'll invite, I almost forgot who was second there, Trev. Nitrogash, yeah, Nitrogash, of course. Oh, I'm going to have to do it through... the way they've changed the party system now, I'm going to have to try and do it a different way. Right, add players. Yeah, it's... Oh. Living Wall... Right, so that's Living Wall invited. Bear with me, guys, as quick as I can. I think I've got Nitrogash on my friends list, so... Yep, Nitrogash, I can do that. And then Ginger Tiger. Is there something after Tiger? Is there like a number or something? 52, thank you very much. Yeah, that's Living Wall joined. Right, so I invited all the podium sitters. That took a bit longer than it should have because of a new PSN party way of doing things. But yeah, thanks for joining Living Wall. If you could just make sure your voice is set to always share. Just so your voice can be heard on the stream. And while we wait for everyone else to join, we'll start with a race winner, Living Wall. So congratulations on the win, just your second start in the F4 League and your first win with it. How are you feeling after that? You must have been, it looks like you were quite nervous towards the end, taking it pretty easily. Was that what was going through your head?
He's just lagged out the party.
Ah. He's back. Can you hear you? Hello? Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, so we'll try that again. No worries at all. See you. Go ahead. We obviously saw Maggot build quite a lead at the start of the race, but it seemed like you were a lot happier on the hard tyres. Did you find a good rhythm on those tyres? We noticed as well at Cryptox your teammate was obviously holding Maggot up as much, but obviously they were obviously around him for quite a while. Was there any sort of team orders going on there now for Romeo to try and help you out a bit? And at the end of a race, obviously, we saw the gap coming down quite a lot between you and Trev behind. Were you just taking it very easy at that point? You'd obviously seen quite a few drivers around you have issues. Did you want to make sure you brought it home? And obviously, this only being your second race, you must be delighted that you're already standing on the top step. And just finally, looking ahead to next week, we're racing at Baku. What are your thoughts going to that one? Alright, congratulations once again on your win. And I'll let my co-commentator take over to interview Nitrogash.
And Nitrogash, very well done on your P2. It was you weren't very talked about much between us and on stream, but very well done. Firstly, did you keep up with the penalty counts between everyone, or did you just see the result at the end and saw yourself a P2?
No, I kept asking what the penalties were. I knew that Ginger Tiger had 3, and I knew that Malc had 6. So I was like, as long as I stick with Ginger, it's quite nice to jump up to second.
Yeah, did you feel the effect of the it looked like on stream that the weather turned very overcast near the end. Did that affect you at the end of the race, thinking, oh, there could be a little bit of rain?
Yeah, I did ask about 3 times. They kept telling me there was none coming, so I was like, okay. I don't know if you've looked up, but
Oh, well, obviously you have to check to be most safe and sorry. But
yeah.
The same questions what Jake said. Baku next week. What do you think you're going to be like? And
well, I don't like Baku. I don't like Hungary, so there you go. But I'll just try my best. Like I said before, I don't really try and push too hard. Just do what I can do and see where I end up. I don't try and push too hard. Hence, not getting penalties really. Just keep it on the road, keep it steady, and see if you can keep up with people. But yeah, Baku's a bit. I don't mind the bit. The first bit and the last bit, it's just the bit around the castle and the coming out of that fast section there where you take the left. I have trouble with there, so we'll see.
I wish I could take your approach of not pushing all the time and just be wary of the penalty count. Well done, and for P2, great race.
All right, just a big shout out to all my mates that were watching. They're usually in the back door arms, but unfortunately it's been postponed because of COVID, so we're all in our own houses. But yeah, big shout out to them.
No worries at all. And
Cheers.
I want to quickly as well just mention to you, I know you usually tend to be quite close contact with Malc. Are you pretty amazed that you managed to get those hards to the end?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many laps did he do in the end?
I think it was about 28.
Was it? Jesus? I knew he was coming, and then I asked like what he had and penalty wise and stuff, and I thought he got to like 3/4 of a second behind me, and he was constantly going down the straight, and I was thinking, if you want to go past me, like go for a move, and I won't fight you, I'll let you go because I know you've got 6 seconds, so I'll just stick with you. That's if I was slowing him down, but fair play for getting them tires to go that long. I mean, yeah, I was struggling at the end there nearly.
All right, and yeah, congratulations on the 2nd place, and all the best for Baku next week.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Looks like Ginger Tiger isn't going to be joining us tonight, so that's the end of the podium interviews. That's the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix tonight. Be sure to join us next week, same time, same place, for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With myself, a massive thank you to Yestin for joining me for tonight's race. I hope you enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure, and I'll make sure I'll get the popcorn ready for Baku next week.
No worries at all. And yeah, a huge thank you to everyone who tuned in, and we will see you next week. Catch you all on the flip side.